Can't hear you. Oh. You're muted. Hey, everybody. Can you hear me?
Hey, can you guys hear me now?
Now we can hear you.
Oh, perfect. That always seems to happen right as we go live. We were testing the audio a minute ago and everything was fine.
Yep. That's showbiz, folks. Don't do this at home. Or wait, you have to do it from home.
It is. You do. We've learned how to get professional setups really quick. So I am Lucas from Gorgias. This is Ben from Magento. Thank you, everyone, for making some time to join us. Now that you can hear me loud and clear, let us know where you're coming from while we wait for the last couple people to trickle in. So I'm from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, obviously with Gorgias. And Ben, where are you joining us from?
I am joining from Isle of Palm, South Carolina, right next to Charleston.
Awesome. We've got West Palm, Florida, Ohio, Los Angeles, Montreal, bonjour, Quebec, Edmonton. We got quite a few Canadians. LA, Vegas. Wow. Must be.
Hey, Winston, that's my old home.
Is it?
Yeah, I grew up in Winston-Salem.
Oh, cool. Well,
I've been to Frankfurt.
UK. Thank you for joining us late at night. Fort Lauderdale, Chicago, all over Canada, the US, worldwide. I saw some people from India, from Ukraine had joined us. How cool is it that we've got people from all over? We've got Indianapolis, Vienna. Wow. That's
what I love about this business.
I know. It brings us together like nothing else. Tommy Lee from LA. Like, I wonder if that's the Tommy Lee, the drummer. How cool would that be?
That would be sweet.
Right, no pressure.
My drum set right here, cleverly disguised by a some kind of sheet.
Perfect. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. I think the numbers stopped trickling in. Now we're at quite a few people in here. So let me share my screen. This is all about Magento 2 and really Magento only. So we started this little live stream series. I hate the phrase webinar because nobody wants to go on another webinar. So I call them a fun little live stream where you can grab a drink. We will be shipping out everyone a bottle of house who's attending us live in the US. But thank you so much for joining. So obviously, if you're on Magento and you've been in the Magento ecosystem, you know Ben, and we are Gorgias. So we're really the help desk that turns your customer service into a profit center. And with that, over the last few weeks, with so much going on online, we've seen entire businesses transform from what used to be 90% brick and mortar to 100% online, and a lot of retail staff shifting to be not just reactive customer support, but really assisted sales staff. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, going over some of those trends that we've seen. There were a lot of great questions in the chat box. So we've cherry-picked some of the really good ones that are applicable to everyone. But the Thirsty Thursdays are always more fun when you're engaged. So if you do have any questions, just drop them into either the chat window, but we have quite a few people on right now. So maybe just use the questions tab there. If you want, we can also invite you on stage. If you've got a story to tell, let's have some fun with it. So, housekeeping first. We had a little bit of technical difficulties with the Uber Eats. I don't know if you've ever been blacklisted from Uber, but we were for sending out trying to send out too many lunches to different locations this week. Apparently they don't like that. We thought it could be a good way to make some more revenue for them, and we contacted their support, and they just kind of shut us down. So instead of being a revenue generating opportunity, it turned out to hurt them. So we sent out gift cards to everyone. This way we're not wasting any food because the courier couldn't find it. It was the wrong 123 Evergreen Terrace Street. So we are doing the gift cards instead. And for the booze, what we're doing is, to make it a true Thirsty Thursday, we're sending out everyone in a bottle of house. So the gift cards are still, it's only in the US. If you're not in the US, we'll take care of you. You might randomly just get an Uber Eats lunch at some point over the next week or so. Unfortunately, the house is only for the US. So we'll try to figure out something else for people who joined us. But on that note, just to make sure that there's no issues with the shipping of the addresses, I've created a quick, simple type form if you just want to put in your full shipping address here. So I just dropped that into the chat box. You'll get that in that follow-up email. So fill that out. We're going to send that over to house, and they're going to be sending out the bottles within the UK. But with liquor laws, there's just some not so fun legalities that Ben and I were talking about. So thank you so much for bearing with us for some of those technical difficulties.
Someone asked, "What about Canada?" I think you'll get your shipment of maple syrup shortly.
That's right. We've got fully loaded maple syrup. So what is House? It's just an aperitif direct consumer alcohol brand, and they were really friendly for being able to do bulk orders. We tried to do another company called Drizzly, and it took a week and a half to get back to us. So we're going to be talking a little bit about some of those strategies. So you're not taking a week and a half to get back to your customers. So Ben, should we jump into some trends that we've seen over the last almost 2 months now with COVID?
Yeah, this has been transformational to say the least. I'm sure you all actually have probably seen it over there more than even more than I'm exposed to it, but we certainly are talking about it. Wow, look at that graph.
Yeah. Wendy, the Uber Eats and House were sending gift cards, and House in the US if you hit the type form above. But yeah, so taking a look at all of the Gorgias merchants, what we saw was at the start of March, in the first couple of weeks, trends were going down a bit, and we weren't really sure what was going to happen. And then they started to pick back up again. And almost on April 13th, it was like the day we all moved online. And I have a lot of friends in e-commerce who sent me screenshots of their stores, just like you, Jamie, going up 10x, who have seen like right on this date, this really happened. And it's been really it's been really noticed in industries like home fitness, even home glamour and beauty and skincare has seen a big uptick in sales. Anything that you can do at home has seen that increase, but also with all of the restaurants and traditional businesses that didn't really have a website presence. Now my mother in her 70s, she's ordering her groceries by text message for curbside delivery. It's just, we've seen everything come online in a way that we knew might happen in a generational shift, but it's just happened over almost overnight. But what has this meant for support volume? Well, here the leading indication of the support tickets going back almost 2 months. So that first chart was going back to the start of March. This one I added another month to the back of February. And you can see that while the sales were going down, support volume was starting to either stay the same or go up. So what happened was people were asking questions. Well, can you still ship? Can you still get your products? What's going to happen? Can I do curbside pickup? Maybe they just wanted to know, how long do I have before I can go purchase? And thank you, Ben, for muting yourself there, and bless you. But what really happened was, it was a leading indicator of those sales. And we can see that started to go up and up and up. And that drop is just because there tends to be a little bit of a lag in general in our cohort reporting. So that's not as actual as the rest of the big slope up. The other thing that's happening is it's almost like this death spiral of tickets, where if it takes too long to get back, like with Drizzly, you respond to that first email to create another ticket. You maybe go on the website and open up a live chat. Maybe you call in, and now because of that time to respond, instead of responding quickly and getting a sale, you're now having to deal with 3 tickets. It's almost like this customer support death spiral. So that's sort of the opportunity and one of the biggest challenges we've seen for merchants. Wow, James, that's awesome that you saw the revenue rise over 200%. That's awesome.
That's bonkers.
And Ben, what are some of the trends that you're seeing with the merchants that you work with and that you're in communication with?
Right. So, I mean, I don't want to misrepresent. I'm obviously not, I'm not sitting on top of our servers, or as is often the case with Magento, we just don't even have any idea what our customers are doing directly because they're on premise. But what I know is what we're hearing internally, and there are plenty of businesses that were that were hurt, just depending on the vertical, the business that they were in. But Yeah, and we've just seen some absolutely bonkers. I mean, like, best sales day of the year. Sometimes, just in chunks of an hour of a day.
Mhm.
That kind of that kind of hockey stick. And then there are a lot of merchants. I think fitting in with the graph that you have, or the graphic that you have here. A lot of people have had to figure things out. There's actually a story from one of our great members of the ecosystem, David Alger, and I saw he'd mentioned on Twitter, I think yesterday, that they had like just finished rolling out in-store pickup, and so literally all they had to do, I mean, it was just by coincidence, all that merchant had to do was essentially turn the language around it into curbside pickup, right? So you do have some businesses that were in the middle of this, like this hybrid online, offline, setup. And then you have people who are, urgently trying to figure things out. And that was one of the things that I think, that was one of the realities that we saw. Karen Baker from Shipper HQ, she started, she started seeing, hearing, because she's in a lot of ecosystems, right? So she's their platforms there with BigCommerce, there with Shopify, there with Magento. And she just heard a lot of the hurt that was coming in. And so, she got a bunch of people together to start the offline to on initiative to help some of these merchants out. So, we heard it all. We heard just tremendous business success. I mean, if you just happen to be running like a home fitness business, you're making out like gangbusters. My wife and I are having to like borrow and quarantine puzzles from neighbors, because you can't buy a puzzle right now. It's just really interesting, the products that have been selected for in this situation.
I heard one puzzle business, all they do is puzzles, not just toys. They went from a 10,000 square foot warehouse to 40,000 and leasing an additional 7,000.
Jeez, man.
Like, I don't know if you've ever been in a 40,000 square foot warehouse, but that is not small.
Yeah. Yeah. Someone just posted in the chat, they've started doing curbside sales, now that it's allowed wherever they are. And this is another thing that's just, this kind of patchwork. So this is one of the challenges for the sort of multi-location, like multi-regional outfits is, regulations are different. So there's not necessarily a one size fits all everywhere. But, Jamie in the chat here has pointed out that the couriers are struggling. And that is something that you see. I was impressed, because my job was pretty much never being at home. I'm a remote worker anyway, but I had to order, I had to get a desk and a chair, and I went through 3 different monitors. And I was actually surprised at how well things were being delivered. But I know there are some categories of things that you can't find. And depending on where you are, you're not going to get what you want in the time that you were expecting pre-COVID.
No, but the really interesting opportunity here is that same day or next day Amazon Prime is no longer really an option. So now we all have the same shipping as Amazon, so we can really compete against them. It's so at such a giant level, and that's really one of the things that we help merchants do and businesses do, is compete against Amazon. Obviously not on shipping, but by being able to offer that same level of customer service.
Yeah.
So let's jump into some of the questions now. I have a couple more slides here. I'll just fly through and I'll send out a copy of the slides afterwards to everyone. But really, what's really interesting is we contacted some of our partners to see what's happening, to just verify some of our data. And you can see it's trending up overall. Like Danielle says, a lot of supplement and vitamin businesses are doing well. Like you said, home fitness. One of our ad buying partners, Mute 6, they ran all their data. And the overall spend versus CPM, the spending is remaining about the same, but the CPM is going down. So you can compete and buy ads at a lower cost than you have been able to before. So for some merchants, there is a lot of opportunity here to go out and compete, which is so much more optimistic than what we were seeing about a month ago. Oh, wow. Yeah. VPN, I can only imagine how that is. Wow. I didn't even think about the VPN industry. Could you imagine having some shares in NordVPN right now?
There are some absolute. This is certainly true for Adobe, but I'm sure most industries have this. Just some critical efforts by IT teams. I mean, I think the fact that Hulu and Netflix have been just effectively rock solid through all of this is also commendable.
Yeah. Like Netflix, the fact that they have had zero downtime, like props to them. Nick, we should send their IT team some of those glass engravings or engraved glasses. But even then, you see people drinking at home. It's maybe at the end of your day, because I know a lot of remote workers with nothing else to do or just almost working around the clock. You see people go out and just get dressed up and have a nice cocktail on their balcony every night. And it's stuff like that to really enjoy your home has just skyrocketed. In terms of the questions, there was one about really how things have shifted, and I don't know if you can read it here, but this is how ad copies changed. And there's a lot of really focusing at home, finding who maybe your new heroes are. Maybe it's not the big athlete right now, but it's really the frontline workers. Or maybe now, if you're a cooking device like the Brava, you're shifting to all those at-home chefs because you're not going out and spending a ton of money. So buying a $1,000 countertop oven is a lot more reasonable right now. If you're Theragun, you're targeting people who are working at home or working out from home. Maybe they saved a bunch of money on their gym and they freed up their budget for more equipment to work out from home. And obviously self-care, like we're seeing in the chat, has been huge. James, some great insights there in the chat as well. Let's see what else we got here. Another big thing that we've seen is that it's been truly omni-channel. Mobile traffic has skyrocketed, but with that, it's a lot of SMS, maybe Instagram ad comments. People are calling in via air call to arrange that curbside pickup. So not just total order size, but really that omni-channel business as well. Just bought a hot tub online. They are totally out of stock everywhere. Gina, good attitude. You know what? I think that we should all, right after this webinar, swing over to your place and enjoy the hot tub. I know that my
dad's not social distancing.
Oh, you're right. It's not. So you know what, Ben? We're all just having to buy our own hot tub. We'll have a virtual hot tub and
virtual tubbing.
But people are doing that. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So jumping into the questions. This was an actual question, so thank you so much for the softball. Why you guys over tools like Zendesk? You know what? I'm going to come back to this one at the end. So Ben, this is a great one for you. How do you know which tools to best integrate? So some of the blog plugin, sales layers, etc.
Well, I have a ready answer in my stable since my time as a developer at an agency, and that is it depends, right? Because it really every merchant's needs are different based on how they differentiate themselves against their competitors, and based on their customer profile, right? So, the best test that you have is actually one of the places to start is look at what your competitors are using, see what works well, see what where they might be missing, and you can maybe with a little digging you can find out. I mean, if you're in like the shopware ecosystem, I would imagine, I believe actually from one of my colleagues, Kaylin Jordan, in the e-commerce ecosystem over there at Commerce Hero IO. I know he's recently started working on a site that digs into each store's stack. And that includes like for Shopify, it's really easy to find out which plugin someone is using. For Magento, it's not nearly so straightforward, right? But there again, I think that might be one of the ways in which a kind of a fully customizable platform can be a benefit. If you need to integrate something, leverage some existing extensions, some existing work, but then really do something to make it your own. So yeah, see what your competitors are using. Do a full investigation. It's not just so in general, I would say bespoke work, like building your own, let's take the example of a blog. So building your own blog from scratch, whatever platform you're on, probably doesn't make sense, right? Because that's such a well-covered category, I think, across all the platforms. You benefit so much by just going with a solution that's already installed and effectively being, like, user tested in the marketplace, and then comes with support down the line, and hopefully will remain supported as well. So just look at all the opportunities. I mean, so for example, like Gorgias is in a position, I, as a consumer, don't tend to think of help desk as a revenue stream, right? But that's exactly your value proposition. Is like, hey, this is another customer touch point, and I'm sure later you're going to tell us how you do that part of it even better than Zendesk. I haven't compared the two solutions, so I won't offer a value judgment there.
Don't worry. We have lots of hard data that we don't need to rely on too many opinions. We'll let the data speak for itself.
But yeah, I mean, it's an essential question, and actually, right now is a time where we're seeing people. We are seeing, in some ways, some investment in your existing infrastructure to beef up and find, maybe to overcome some unexpected shortfall in revenue, or to address way too much sales activity.
Absolutely. So let's jump to the next one here. So this is another one for you, and I know that you did a little bit of research digging into this. More information on subscriptions.
Wow. Yeah. So subscriptions. I appreciate whoever submitted this, because subscriptions is a fascinating topic. Yeah, there's a reason I think that we don't have subscriptions as a core feature, and that is partly because there are extensions out there and extension vendors who support it well. I know Headworks has one that's super popular in our ecosystem, and then I imagine, I haven't looked into some of the SaaS platforms, but I assume there's some great subscription handling. I would hope there's great subscription handling in Shopify and a BigCommerce.
Yeah, and it's funny that subscriptions came up, because that was actually what launched the first Thirsty Thursday. Was we were talking all about subscriptions and trends and sort of best practices around that, but it was more on the marketing side than the tech side.
Yeah, so the thing to point out is that if you want subscription functionality in Magento, absolutely, it's covered by third-party extension. But really, if you dig into subscriptions, I mean, for your own business's use case, it's probably, the band is pretty narrow. Like the set of functions and features that you need, it's hard to imagine how this couldn't exist, just in your platform of choice. But if you think about it, someone building that system is going to build it to work in a lot of places. And I have some colleagues who've worked in this space. I myself, worked with some PayPal solutions back in the days of Magento 1, where we would spin up. I think the plan was for orthotics, and they wanted to allow doctor offices to sell, basically white label through the Magento instance, and sell orthotics to their patients.
Cool.
And then we would use the payment integrations to to sort of offer regular replacement, and then also be able to handle like refund streams and all this stuff. And when you get into buyer agreements and all of the sort of the legalities of it, especially the legalities that change as you go from region to region, if you start to put this together, this matrix of features, times the number of regions where these change, and you end up with this really, really complicated thing that I've seen some very, very smart developers kind of run out of money trying to solve.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Use an extension. If you're using Magento, the answer is use an extension, and you should be just fine.
Perfect. And it's and if you are doing subscriptions, go back a couple of weeks on the Gorgias YouTube channel, and we just chat about some of the subscription best practices and getting creative with it beyond just products and offering a discount as a reason for people to subscribe. So this is a great question for me. How have you noticed any changes in how chatbots are used since the COVID-19 crisis began? So I'm going to go through these slides quickly. I'm just going to put my calendar link here in the chat widget because I'm happy to like really go over this in a lot of detail one-on-one with anyone. I don't know if giving my calendar out like that, giving it like candy on Halloween is a good idea, but I got nowhere else to be, so I'm happy to dig into the data one-on-one if anyone wants to at a later date. But the big thing is it's not just chatbots on site, it's platforms like Messenger being able to drive people to the website, run the promotions, a lot of those call to action ads, and then integrating that seamless experience on the website. And from the back end, people assume or customers assume that the merchant knows who they are. So they start that conversation on Facebook Messenger and then continue it via text messaging with a post-purchase follow-up or the live chat on the website. They assume that everyone knows who they are and they just want to buy it quickly. So it's really having that seamless experience across all platforms and across all channels and really getting into some of the headless commerce. Even starting it in some of the ad comments. So people saying, oh, wow, I had no idea that I need this. I need a Peloton bike. Perfect example. And then driving that to, well, why don't you send us a message? Show us a picture of send us a picture of your apartment and we'll show you the best place where one would fit in. And getting almost that one-to-one sales aspect directly through Messenger. And again, you can drive the sales as well. And it's not a chatbot per se, but text messaging has also arrived overnight, especially with curbside pickup. It's more familiar than ever to be able to do that. And I'll just show an example of how not to do it here. I don't know if you can see that, but I had some groceries come curbside pickup. I said, thank you. And then they said, oh, we're unable to recognize this order. Like, what a terrible experience. I'm saying thank you to the business. And it just says, no. They didn't even want to chat with me. But a great experience could be, this was an Italian bakery that we ordered from. Why not give me a recipe to make something, maybe a great pasta dish? Keep that follow-up, but also be there if somebody's waiting outside for the curbside pickup. Hey, is the driver here yet? You really have to have that instantaneous answer. So being able to chat across the board and where the bots come into that, knowing that somebody's waiting for their order, it's on the way, send that live update right there so they're not waiting 15, 20 minutes to get a response or even days in some cases. And obviously, for chatbots specifically, we're seeing a lot of trends with stores closed, it's almost like those retailers. So maybe on the homepage, you just have a simple welcome message. Hey, thanks so much. Get your order in by noon for curbside pickup later today. Any charitable causes that you're doing. So, hey, thanks so much for visiting. Our stores are closed, but we're donating 1% of all of our proceeds to the frontline workers to get them PPE. So really tailor that to them and invite them to start that dialogue with you. And the really cool thing about this is that it's driving a lot of revenue as well. So this is an older screenshot, but it's omni-channel, not just happening on the site. And we're seeing more agents being measured on sales as opposed to things like time to resolve a ticket. So this is from one merchant that did over $20,000 of sales leading into the holidays, and the numbers are very similar now, even higher than Black Friday. So these are the trends going in through chatbots as buyer behavior has just totally shifted online. So before we get back to the why us over Zendesk, let's go see, do we have any other questions, Ben, that you wanted to cover? Any other questions from the chat widget in here?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'd say just in general, you know, I work with the Magento ecosystem and more broadly, like the developer and commerce ecosystems. One of the interesting things right now, I mean, granted, you do have, there are theories, conspiracy or otherwise out there. I'm not going to get into this kind of unpleasantness that I'm seeing spring up in some corners of social media. But in general, I am seeing people connecting in ways that I haven't before. And sometimes it's subtle and it depends. I mean, if it's your coworkers, Maybe it's just increased engagement in Slack, and maybe a little more sharing of personal context, right? Because we're all in our personal context these days. My wife's a pilot, and we're missing out on we go to two huge air shows every year, and they've wisely, but unfortunately, had to cancel. And so this group of people who all camp together for a week at a time, we've been having some happy hours, and it's been really interesting. I've actually come to understand these people, a little bit better than I do just sort of seeing them in the way, in the ways and means that we normally do. All this is to say, it's a really interesting opportunity to make those connections. So whether it's within your business or whether it's with your peers, with your customers, lean into those relationships, and there can be a good exchange of value in knowledge, or maybe there's some resources that you can work on. We just announced a program yesterday. We're investing a substantial amount of money in our ecosystem for our solution partners, right? To just work with them, in an effort to kind of give back for all of the good work that the ecosystem has done for Magento. And but for me, the real outcome of that is going to be just increased engagement and understanding with the people who are taking our work, the product that we make, and making it work for the merchants and their customers out there. It's a really important and essential time or opportunity to learn something that we learn some things we probably didn't know. And I'm waiting to get into that, but that's my kind of go-to advice for people in this time. Just show a little empathy, and you will probably be rewarded with a really rich relationship.
Absolutely. Especially customers remember what brands do during times of need, how they adapt, and how they move over. And it's just like we hear a lot of the positive stories. You hear about stores that just refuse to open or do curbside pickup, and it's almost really counterintuitive. I'm just going through the questions here. I think there's a couple more on just in general with the end of life for Magento 1 as we're moving over to Magento 2. You're going to be much closer to that than I am, Ben. What is there any other insight you have for the merchants who are joining us? Because I know that the end of life is coming up pretty quick.
Yeah, it's so Magento 1, we announced, when we released Magento 2, we gave Magento 1 a 3-year end of life. So that was originally November 2018. And that was updated. We extended end of life by another good year and a half. But coming up here at the end of June 30th, is the last day of official support for Magento 1. And there won't be any further extension. I can absolutely guarantee that, and it's for a lot of good reasons. I'm certainly empathetic with the merchants who are still on the Magento 1 platform. But one thing is really clear, and we're aware of and doing our best to make sure that people are connected with the various vendors out there that are looking to help out merchants who are still on M1. So bottom line, and I have a post that'll be published soon. We're actually releasing a new website for the Magento Association at magentoassociation.org. And along with that will also be a brand new content hub. So Magento 1 content will actually feature pretty prominently there because it's one of the biggest topics that people are asking us about. And in this post, I make it very clear. Any of the solutions that provide a safe harbor or sort of an extension of sorts to the Magento 1 timeline, you really ought to be treating those as a stopgap, right? Because the official vendor is abandoning that project, right? So no more security updates from us. And I think at some point very quickly, and for a lot of people, that point would have already come. There's an opportunity cost to being on an older platform. I mean, there are merchants for whom, the needs, requirements just haven't changed. Magento is great because we don't, we're not charging you per transaction. So I can see why some merchants stay, but in general, I think there's probably more money and opportunity out there if you're getting onto another platform. Now, great. There's probably a reason you chose Magento 1, and it probably has a lot to do with customization. And that may be the sole driver for why you would make the jump to Magento 2. But one of the good things that's happened for merchants since Magento 1 came out in 2008 is that the SaaS offerings have really, they've come into their own. And so I think, if you're looking at your next platform, you really should do a thorough investigation. I mean, you really should evaluate all your options. But of course, I have a warm spot in my heart for Magento. There are for merchants who will find themselves on M1 after end of life. There are hosts that are providing some services tailored specifically to Magento 1, and you can find those hosts, I think, pretty easily online. I have a list of resources in this blog post that'll be coming out again on Monday, I think is the launch date, and as well as the Mage 1 project, which is several of my friends and colleagues in Germany have a paid service to develop patches and offer bug bounties, actually, to kind of keep security up to date for Magento 1. And then there's the Open Mage project, which is a community effort that is designed to also maintain a fork of Magento 1 after end of life. So there are people there are resources out there around Magento 1 post end of life. But as for any merchants still on M1, I would encourage you to, if you're going to use some of these resources, again, to just use that as a springboard into your next platform, whether that's M2 or something else.
No, awesome. That's really helpful, because I know that there were just a lot of questions about that, and Mage 1 specifically. And that's a good segue into sort of us first Zendesk as we wrap it up here. Oh, we did have a couple of questions in the chat. So the best on-site chat. I mean, we have online chat baked into Gorgias, so I'm going to be pretty biased towards that, just with the level of automations we can offer, plus having all that customer data in one place. But I mean, ultimately, try a few out and just see the one that you like best that works for your team. We do have merchants all the way from independent retailers just getting online to offer curbside pickup, all the way up to the Steve Maddens and the legacy brands with dozens or probably hundreds of agents online at a time right now. So I'm going to, I'll plug Gorgias. I'm actually was a merchant before I joined, and I tried all of them, Zendesk, Intercom, some of the free ones, and it was the level of integration data that Gorgias could pull in, and the ease of that did it too, that was the real reason that I joined the company. So I'm passionate about the product as a consumer first, not just an employee.
Yeah, I'd say there are several solutions out there for the Magento ecosystem. Digital, one of our premier partners, and core bundled extension as well. They have their engagement cloud. They have chat baked in there, and there's some interesting things that developers can do to really dig into that and sort of engage with that stream of communication. But to your point, it's absolutely imperative that you have you match your customers' expectations, right? So know thy customer, and if your customers are, as is the case in this, what we used to call omni-channel is just, doing business now.
Yeah.
You one of the challenges, and one of the reasons that we fit into Adobe so well, is because of, Adobe's really good with data and helping you make sense of data, but really understanding your customer and knowing your customer. And in the case of chat, that's going to be a really personal experience for them, and you better meet their expectations. Otherwise, as it can be super engaging, it can be super off-putting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there was another question about that as well. What do you do if you're only offering chat from 8 till 5? look into doing some outsourcing. It can be quite economical if you do want to offer 24/7 support. There are a lot of companies that will just do it by the ticket. So if you have someone late at night, they can't sleep and they're on your site and they're chatting with you, don't leave them hanging. But set up an autoresponder, and Ben, to your point, really manage those expectations of what you're putting out there. And always Disney's the best at this, of saying, hey, you know what, it's going to be a 45-minute wait from when you're at this point, but really it's closer to 40 minutes, 38 minutes, because people always like to feel like they beat the GPS. So always under promise and over deliver there. Question from Ed: why do we have end of life for Magento 1 coming up, but already for 2.1 and 2.2, yet we have 2.3 going strong? So I think that's a little bit more for you in terms of Magento, just in the chat box.
No, sorry, could you repeat the question again?
Yeah, why do we have end of life for 1 coming up, but already for 2.1 and 2.2, yet we have 2.3 going strong?
So I think the question is, thanks for the link to the association, Lucas.
Absolutely. And I'll put it in the follow-up as well.
End of life for 1 coming up, but already, okay. All right. So why are things out of sync? Like, why would we, if Magento 1 is only just now being retired, finally and ultimately, why have we already, done end of life on previous, on previous minor versions of Magento 2? And the answer is because you have to think of them as 2 completely different product lines, right? And we have so Magento 1 was super mature by the time it went into maintenance. And Magento 2 is under regular development. Now, as we move that platform along, it's in everybody's interest, including ours, to encourage people, to encourage the businesses to stay up to date. And with Magento 2, as an organization, we've become much better at regular releases. In fact, we've, within the last year, we've launched a pretty rigorous policy of releasing, doing a security patch, and then doing the next release. And that allows customers to actually, if they need to just get the security patch in, just patch any kind of vulnerabilities, they can do that. And that's a less surface area, so it should be a quicker thing to execute, just based on your business pressure. But the idea is that you'll then pick up in the next update. You'll be able to plan for the next jump. That should give you a few months to work through whatever you're working through. There is, I can guarantee you, in my years in this business, there is no one size fits all for release cadence. Some people, if you release 10 times a year, they'll be like, holy crap, that's not enough. We want more. Some, if you release once a year, they're like, that's just too much. That's too much. So this is the happy medium. And this is the result of extensive ongoing feedback with our ecosystem. And then, and that also, by keeping that cadence, it also helps us to keep the release sizes smaller, so that there's less chance of regression. I mean, we do extensive regression testing inside Magento before anything sees the light of day. In fact, if you go to marketplace.magento.com, you'll see something interesting, which is that part of our release cycle for actually shipping our code to you all is making sure that our marketplace, which always runs on the latest version of Magento 2, making sure that there are no regressions there. So I mean, it's not just that we're kind of spitballing or have a finger in the air. We're really invested in this ourselves. But that said, Magento is used in all sorts of interesting ways, and you need to cover your custom code, or make sure your extensions have some kind of testing scope that you can execute against, or you need to have some, depending on the degree of customization, you want to make sure that you have a kind of a commensurate level of QA that goes along with this, so that you can truly see the effects. So that's, hopefully that answers. I mean, again, it's all about trying to keep people up to date. And, that really is in everybody's interest. If we're building the product that matters, then, with each of these minor releases, and I'm using these terms, by the way, developers that might be in the chat, like if you look at 2.1 and 2.2 and 2.3, and we call those a minor release, right? Those are a dot release, but these are just marketing versions. Underneath, you actually, as a developer, you would look at the individual module versions if you're considering semantic versioning. It's a point of confusion. It's an imperfect system, but it balances. Alan Kent, our former chief architect, and I came up with that scheme years and years ago because we wanted to balance sort of the business need to talk about the new version of Magento against the semantic versioning need, which would mean like if you change a public method of some class, it would technically have to be called Magento 3. And there's no way we would be on Magento like 870 right now. And I guarantee you there's not a business alive that would touch a platform that goes through that many major versions. No. So that's why we have that numbering scheme there. But Ed, hopefully that clears things up for you. I'm always available. You can find me online, Ben Marks on Twitter, or just ben@magento.com still via email.
The OG email. And one last question here from Ruth that goes well with that. What resources do you recommend for web dev agencies that have multiple clients that need to convert to Magento 2 so those clients don't have to foot the bill to rebuild their site?
Wow, Ruth coming with the thunder there. For web dev agencies that have multiple clients. So going from Magento 1 to Magento 2 is not the same thing as going from like Magento 1.8 to 1.9 or Magento Enterprise 1.13 to 1.14. I wish it were. We really wish that the upgrade path were an upgrade path as opposed to, something more akin to a migration. And it has a lot to do with Magento 1. And I'm sorry, I'm going to give you just some backstory because I think this is an intensely emotional and sort of economic question that people have. But think about it. Magento 1 was developed all throughout 2007, released in 2008. So that means the platform that came out was really cool and revolutionary, but it was basically invented before cloud computing, like commodity computing was a thing. Yep. It came out before people were really testing PHP code. Like if you were in the Java world, you probably had test suites, but in PHP, not so much, not at that time. And then after that, we had Composer. So for package management, you have all this technology that came on. And then there's all of the front end tech that came on. We're continuing to see front end tech evolve, which is why we do PWA Studio. So that said, if you have a shop that is well-versed in Magento 1, and this is where I cut my teeth, I was a much better Magento 1 developer than Magento 2 developer, if you can believe it. You want to get your staff trained up. You absolutely want to invest in your team that's going to have to perform some of this work. You're going to want to work closely with your customers to help them find the value of Magento 2 relative to Magento 1. Again, speaking to the opportunity cost. So it is a bit in how you sell it, right? I mean, if you charge a flat fee to upgrade from Magento 1.8 to 1.9, you say, oh, Magento upgrades are $1,000, right? You most likely can't do that for Magento 2, probably not, and stay in business. There's just going to be time involved in your staff learning Magento 2, which has a lot of familiar components to it, but also has a lot of like new conventional stuff. Now, that said, there is a really cool thing that we did, and something that was awesome for me to understand I was one of the original Magento U instructors back in 2011. I've long been a proponent of making our education as accessible as possible. And just last month, we announced that for 3 months, we were going to make Magento U courses, several of our Magento U self-paced courses, free of charge. This was in recognition of the tremendous challenge that the industry is facing in light of the pandemic. So I encourage you to go to u.magento.com, and there's a call out there. You can actually just click in. You'll go into Adobe's learning management system, sign up, get registered, and get learning. Absolutely use this, because these courses, if you buy them on their own, will cost thousands of dollars. There are some other really good resources out there. Max Pronko has a good. He's got the dev letter. He's got a lot of content that he's putting out on his YouTube channel, and I think Mage Mastery is his domain. Mark Schust, one of the people that I taught in the very first Magento U class. He is doing a lot of work these days as well with education, and has a really cool Docker setup. And then my old buddy Vinay Kopp has mage2.tv, which is a set of screencasts. Any of these resources are helpful. I mean, it's just like anything else. Learn, and then encourage your staff to work amongst each other. And then your sales team, again, they really need to look at, help the merchants look at the opportunity costs of sort of being on Magento 1 versus on being the next thing. That is where part of that value is. But that's how you sort of say, like, hey, we're going to ask you to pay for this, but we believe that with the increase in conversions, with whatever matches to that merchant, that is where you convince them of the value. But also don't sell them bullshit, right? I mean, it really is the time. There are several merchants for whom Magento 1 was a fit in like 2010, 2011. And right now, if they're still on Magento 1, if their business is the same as it was back then, they are probably better served jumping over to a SaaS platform. That's just a reality. So I think you really need to engage in earnest with your merchant and get the merchant on the right platform. Because when merchants are on the wrong platform, it's a drag on the total e-commerce ecosystem. Just get merchants where they should be going as soon as you can get them there.
And it's worse for the customers as well. To use an offline example, imagine just going into any store and it feels dated, and that experience just hasn't kept up with customer patterns. And I think that it's a good opportunity as well to just shamelessly plug Gorgias now, because why ask over tools like Zendesk? And as you are reevaluating everything, maybe Zendesk or FreshChat, Freshworks, that was a great tool 10 years ago, but things have changed. And Zendesk they're an amazing platform. They were really the first people to take help desk online and make it manageable, but they're trying to do everything. They're a huge company now, whereas Gorgias, we're focused just for e-commerce. We're not trying to compete as a B2B CRM. We're not trying to do SaaS support. We're really only for e-commerce. And also, we have some great incentives. So my slide.
Well, you send out booze every Thursday. I mean,
we do.
What's not to like?
Oh man, I love when my slides freeze just as I'm trying to get it going. But it was so exciting. It broke the Google Slides. But compared to Zendesk, and I mentioned that I would get into some math here. Out of the gate, our customers see about a 30% efficiency gain in their support overnight, just because of the level of integrations. You're not switching between tabs and pulling in order tracking numbers. If you think that you have 15 agents, well, now 12 of those agents can do that work, and that leaves 3 of them to be able to do a lot of that more pre-sales and engage with those customers, which improves your return on ad spend. Especially right now, you want to take advantage of those low CPMs and being able to have that increased conversion rate through chat, because all that's being pulled in. And there was a question about our stimulus. So if you have seen a dip in sales, we are offering 3 to 6 months of free access to to Gorgias. So we want to help you out with some of those software costs, and going beyond that specifically for Magento. Oh, the slides are frozen, but respond to the email. We'll give you 3 months free, but also pause billing. So if you are, so because we are a Magento 2 app, if you're still on Magento 1, we won't charge you for that time that you're not using the app. So we'll give you that 3 months free to help lower that software cost, maybe save some of those costs associated with the dev work. And then also, we're not going to charge you, we're not going to lock you into a 2-year contract. We really want to do what's best for merchants. So you'll get a follow-up email. I dropped my calendar link in the chat. If you have any questions and we can help you out, let me know. Just respond to that email, book the time with us, and well, we'd like to have fun and send out some Uber Eats and drinks to everyone. So awesome, Les, Quint, thank you so much. There, Ben, anything else to add as we come up on the top of the hour?
Well, no, I mean, nothing other than I think it's just it's moments like this, opportunities where we all just get to talk about this stuff in the open. That this is how we get through this moment in time as well as we can, and I think that's the best we can. That's the best we should hope for, and the best we can do is just to help each other out.
It is, and we truly want to be all partners, as it's so cliche at this point, but who knows what the next, let alone year, what the next week or even days are going to look like. Everything's just changing so quickly. We want to be there to help support everyone, keep up with that change, and all survive and get through this together and come out better on the other side.
Yeah, no, I'm going from 300 days a year on the road to I think I'll probably get away with about 6 this year.
Oh,
so
you and me.
It's different, right?
You and me both. I spent 2/3 of my time in Q1 not at home. You and I aren't going to get on a flight this quarter. Maybe not next quarter either.
I don't expect to get on a flight this year. I mean, I live 100 yards or 100 meters from the beach, so it's not so bad for me. But,
especially summer on the beach, airports.
Yeah, I think I got to go with beach. So thanks everyone, I guess, that took the time to be here with us. And of course, if you're watching this after the fact, please feel free to reach out to us. We have our information, our contact information contained herein.
Absolutely. And Ben will sync up offline. I'll get those resources that you mentioned in the chat and put them in the wrap-up email. Thanks so much, everyone. Enjoy the house. Enjoy the Uber Eats.
Yeah. Cheers, everybody.